Tulsi Gabbard drops another Russia hoax bombshell. Blaze News The Mandate starts right now. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Jill Savage. Let's go ahead and get straight to our panel. Editor-in-Chief Matthew Peterson.
I think the hottest woman in D.C. just got hotter today.
Yes, she did. And D.C. politics editor Chris Bedford. Chris, so much happening in your city right now.
You're talking about me, right, Matt?
You are not a woman.
I said woman, not person, on purpose to rule you out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was 2025, 2023. I forgot. Patriots are in control and men can't be women anymore.
Well, let's go ahead and get straight to the hottest woman in D.C. It was a big announcement today, and we may be on the brink for only the fifth time in American history that a sitting or former U.S. president could be referred to DOJ for criminal implications.
You've inferred that the former president helped lead a coup. Based on what you now see, do you believe President Obama is guilty of treason?
I'm leaving the criminal charges to the Department of Justice. I'm not an attorney, but as I've said previously, when you look at the intent behind creating a fake manufactured intelligence document that directly contradicts multiple assessments that were created by the intelligence community, the expressed intent and what followed afterward can only be described as a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy against the American people, our republic, and an attempt to undermine President Trump's administration.
That is what I voted for right there, going through a year-long coup, treasonous conspiracy. I mean, you want to talk about potentially some charges up for Barack Obama. The previous presidents that have been referred to the DOJ, by the way, short list: Nixon for Watergate, Clinton for Monica Lewinsky, Trump, obviously multiple times, we know those, and Joe Biden for the mishandling of classified documents. So pretty rare air. Guys, are we going to actually see some action out of this, Matt?
Well, I would just say, just seeing this today, again, like I said yesterday, just speaking the truth is doing my heart a lot of good, because I did not know whether or not we would see this day where in front of the American people, from the pulpit, right, a senior official is saying what the truth is. And that truth is that this was a treasonous conspiracy, and we'll have to see, what happens next. But here's the thing that to take away from the day, and that is that Tulsi Gabbard is actually doing her job. While other people have been talking, Tulsi Gabbard has been working and is pushing forward exactly where she should. And so kudos to her. She's the hero of the week, and we'll see who else picks up the baton in the weeks to come.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at SOT 2. Tulsi Gabbard did a fantastic job laying out all of the fake intel. Take a look.
The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration.
So, Chris, just plainly speaking, how big of a moment is this politically?
My gosh, I tell you what, it's so much simpler than everything I've been working on with this for the last 8 years. I mean, I used to have to join Maria Bartiromo's show at 6:15 in the morning and get grilled on the latest lies about this FISA application, or this allegation of a spy, or this lie, or this overreach, or this motivation. And now we know definitively, that the entire genesis of this whole thing was false. How can there was no crime? How can there be an investigation of Russian collusion if Russia didn't want Trump to win? And we know this, it kind of reminds me of back in the day. It came out after he passed away that J. Edgar Hoover had been asked, why did you put spies on Barry Goldwater's campaign? Why did you bug his phones? And his response was, if the president tells you to do something, you do it. So the two people who are coming out here as the number one villains are Brennan and President Barack Obama. And that's also interesting, President Obama's implication in this, because we've covered scandals before. We covered the gun-running Eric Holder scandal at the Department of Justice under his tenure. We covered Lois Lerner and the IRS. And a lot of that stuff was chalked up to culture, a culture the administration that made for the targeting of conservatives and opposition seem like it was a reasonable thing to do. Just pushing forward the left-wing agenda was part of the mission, but we were never able to trace those things directly back to the president. Now we have him in the room with the intelligence heads. We have, by the way, it's just two of them. It's just Comey and Brennan. It's not all of the agencies that were claimed. We have that Russia had the kind of information available to it that could have actually turned the election for Trump, when it turns out that Hillary Clinton was significantly sicker than expected, both and emotionally unstable. Now, these were things that you could kind of pick up on from watching, you could guess on, and we did. But now we know that the Democrats knew it, and we know that Putin knew it, and we know that even though it didn't make sense that Russia wanted Trump to win, never once made sense that Russia wanted Trump to win, we know that they actually didn't. This also undermines the whole idea, which has driven American foreign policy largely for the last 8 years, that Putin is some kind of criminal mastermind as opposed to a Russian thug who's really good at keeping control of Russian oligarchs. That throws that out the window. It throws every aspect of what the American people have been led by. And the press were polluters on this. They weren't the actual originators. Some of them weren't. Some of them kind of were deeply involved. But other ones were just cheerleaders. They gobbled it all up and they attacked and attacked. But even through it all, the information that we on the press who questioned this had to deal with at least assumed that they really did believe that there was some kind that Russia had wanted Trump to win. Whether or not that was effective or not was something to be argued. Now we know that's not true. We know that they knew it wasn't true. Watergate's got nothing on this. Teapot Dome's got nothing on this. This is the biggest scandal in the last century of American politics.
Yeah. And now we have the actual reports. And it says the CIA misrepresented a lot in the first document. Here we have where the CIA director released 15 intel reports after the 2016 election. But 3 of them were seriously flawed, and those were used as key evidence in this official assessment that they put out, saying that Putin preferred Trump over Hillary Clinton. But then in the second document we get, it's only the classified info that's used to make this claim where Putin actually wanted Trump. It came from a small sentence fragment. It wasn't even the entire sentence. They went through, and that's what we get. We get one sketchy line, Matt, with no solid backing, and yet this is what all of the intel was based on, and it just goes through, and we have to wait years and years and years until somebody, like we're saying, Tulsi Gabbard, this might just be like the Tulsi Gabbard appreciation show here, is actually willing to go through the evidence that has always been laid out since 2016 and actually present it to the American people.
Yeah, Jill, there's a shameless irony in these being called intelligence agencies. There's not a lot of intelligence involved here. It's shameless propaganda, what's going on. They don't provide information, right, to the president here. This is a propaganda operation, and the intelligence they do have, the information they do have, simply doesn't show, what the narrative has been throughout the media. So, part of the shameless here is the collusion with the willing media over the course of the last 10 years to say things that, really how hard would it be to figure out? So exactly as you said, you have a shred of evidence from one shoddy report that Putin is even on one side of this, never mind the actual facts, some of which we've known all along, and how little they were involved. So, the question now is, how far does this go? I think about public opinion a lot in terms of public opinion, when mainstream media is going to have a hard time covering this, which is why they're not. They're going to try to ignore it. They're still trying to say this is a distraction from Epstein, which is hilarious because they never wanted to talk about Epstein until 5 seconds ago. But they're going to say that. So what are they going to do now? And that's the question to me. Basically, you need everyone who is willing, and I do see people picking up the baton, even some people who call themselves centrist 5 seconds ago. Everyone who's willing and honest needs to take up these reports and start talking about this to push basically the last remaining edifice of old media over. And they chose this. They chose this. They chose to die on this hill. So now we need to make them die on this hill.
And trust me, there was some good stuff that came out of this document dump today. Let's go ahead and take a look at Tulsi Gabbard confirming what she knew about Hillary Clinton and all of her mental health drama.
There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers.
Excuse me? What? What was that? I first learned of this from Mrs. Bedford. I saw Sarah Bedford put this out on X this morning, and I was like, excuse me, Hillary Clinton on tranquilizers? Chris, there's a lot in these document dumps today.
And it makes me recognize now what we were seeing, what that weird Joker-esque smile that she would have every once in a while, the cackle, the shaking. It turns out that her staff was aware of these. They called it weird, uncontrollable happiness, mania, essentially. We knew from leaks that she had quite the temper, that she would rage, that she would scream, that she would yell and curse. Now we know that that was so bad. The Democrats and the Russians all knew about it and were literally sedating her. I mean, imagine if you could sedate your crazy boss. There's a lot of crazy bosses in Washington, D.C., and none of them get put on sedatives. Now we know about the limp falling at the memorial to 9/11 and that they blamed on the
let's watch that.
Beautiful day.
Exactly.
It's wild to see this sort of stuff come out and that the Russians knew it. And you know what else? I was talking about this with Sarah, who's like my encyclopedic knowledge person who I like to pull from. I ask her questions like, remind me what happened with Carter Page, things like that. And she always knows the answer. But I was asking her, where did, I actually kind of lost my train of thought watching that awesome video there. But
remember, the memories come rushing back. That's a conspiracy theory. What are you talking about? Everything's fine.
But it turns out that Putin didn't even in the wildest dreams expect Donald Trump to win. He wasn't going to back that. He didn't want to get in Hillary Clinton's bad side. He was preparing to use this against Hillary. And now we know that once the November happened and the intelligence agencies were scrambling to try and figure out, did the Russians do this to us? How did this possibly happen? Could it be our terrible candidate on sedatives? No way, no possible way. Trump could never win. That the investigation was going to be dead. It was over. Paul Manafort hadn't gone to prison yet. Jeff Sessions hadn't been forced to recuse himself from this. They hadn't gone after Manafort's deputy yet and tried to put him in prison. None of that had happened. And Obama said, go with it. Brennan said, keep it. And the entire thing from there is a lie. Years and years and years.
Now, what's wild to me is, Clinton hatches this plot, it seems like first. According to the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service, they had the campaign email where Clinton's talking about linking Putin and Russia to Trump to distract from the email server scandal. She was making this claim like he's the tool of Putin. And then that became her excuse, but then that transferred into the Obama administration. But it's wild that we just think about how much the mainstream media or the legacy media hasn't spoken about. The Russians knew that they were going to try to link the two together. And how could that be good, except for the fact that, as you say, I don't think they ever thought that Trump could win, or even were that strongly for him. So this whole thing is astounding. The fact that we've been in the dark for so long, but the question now is how far do we push this forward? And I guess what we can all say, right? Just seeing Tulsi get up there and say these things that have been true for a long time, that even on the right, as you were saying early on, oh, you're not supposed to say it. Oh, well, we don't know that. This makes me very uncomfortable to talk about this. Just to see someone say it out loud, I feel like some kind of dam is broken, and hopefully a lot of good stuff is going to flow behind it.
Yeah, they always say none dare call it treason, but it didn't prosper this time. And this is the first time you have an official from the White House out there. And you're right. This is a total vindication of those people, including us, who backed Tulsi Gabbard for this post. Some people try to say she's a former Democrat or she doesn't have the experience. But we knew, and we talked about it in the show, that the main thing that she had was she didn't trust the intelligence agencies. She was willing to take a jaundiced eye to this whole thing. She wasn't simply coming from inside the deep state trying to protect it. She wasn't going to say, oh, it turns out the head of the CIA was super corrupt and so was the president. But we're going to close the chapter on that because it'd be too hard for the American people to learn that sort of thing. We need to maintain the trust that they have. By the way, the trust is already shattered. Those are the calculations that really would have come across the minds and probably governed the decisions of almost any previous person in that position, director of national intelligence, or almost any powerful person in Washington, D.C. The willingness and the instinct to protect your own, to protect the institution, to maintain the lie, to say that we've all moved on, or this has already been reported, or it's in the past. We want to let bygones be bygones. We're keeping an eye toward the future, doing that politician thing where they use their thumbs so that they don't look aggressive and pointing. That's what you normally get. And that is not what we're getting from Gabbard. That's never what we've gotten from President Trump. And it's really refreshing.
Yeah, well, the last thing we'll have to keep an eye on in the future here, Jill, is the fact that Obama did respond, right? And so Trump got Obama to actually say something in response. It left a lot of questions out there, but it was astounding that he did respond because he's been silent and protected this entire time. So that is something that we're going to be keeping a close eye on in the coming weeks.
We absolutely will. And Tulsi Gabbard, keep the document dumps coming. We can't wait to see more here on The Mandate. Real quick before we jump back in, let's talk about the ranchers in this country. American farmers are getting crushed while grocery stores keep stocking meat from overseas. 85% of the so-called grass-fed beef, it's imported, and it's just crazy to think about. That's why you really need to look at goodranchers.com because it's 100% American. It's born, raised, and harvested right here on local family farms, and it tastes amazing. There is nothing better than the summer and grilling out with your friends and family. They have all the steaks, burgers, chicken, even that wild-caught seafood. You're going to be able to taste the difference, and you'll be supporting real American ranchers with every box. So right now, they're running a crazy deal. When you subscribe, you'll get free meat for life. You can choose between Wagyu burgers, hot dogs, bacon, or wings in every box. Just use the code Jill, and they're knocking out $40 as well. So go to goodranchers.com, use that code Jill to back the people who actually feed the country. It's Good Ranchers, American meat delivered. So, Chris, let's go ahead and get to your Beltway brief. There's a lot happening in D.C., and it's not just Tulsi Gabbard related. Over 100 Trump nominees have yet to be voted on, right? We are still waiting. And what I know is, Chris, Congress keeps taking days off. So what can Senate Republicans actually do to fix this?
Well, I'm getting word right now that they're at least going to be working through, they're likely going to be working through next weekend. But I put forward a larger strategy. I mean, the Democrats, this has been a process that's been accelerating since George W. Bush. Essentially, with Democrat opposition to him, it got worse under Obama. It got really turbocharged under President Trump, continued under Biden, and now it's the highest it's ever been, which is that the Senate refuses to allow the administration, the only democratically elected person nationally in the country, to have the government that they want, to have the personnel they want, because they know, and we know from the first term of Trump, that if you don't have the right people in the right positions, the government just pushes you around. It's absolutely huge. It's unwieldy. It's ungovernable. You need to have those captains all throughout who you trust, making sure that the job gets done. You can't just do an executive order or a tweet. It's much more complicated. So they want to stop that process. And to that effect, they're basically making every single nominee go through 30 hours of debate, days of cloture. This is something that has jammed up the works, jammed up the system. I actually think Thune's trying to do good work here, trying to push these people across. But what he's going to end up having to do, I think he's got two options. One is threaten the nuclear option, which for him would be actually declaring the Senate in recess. He'd need the House of Representatives to allow this. They would. He would need the Senate to get to 51 votes to allow this. They would. They'd probably have to give some promises to Susan Collins or other blue state Republicans. And then, as opposed to what they've done for the last couple decades, which is that somebody shows up every 3 days and gavels in, they'd actually close the Senate. And they'd close it for at least 10 days. And if you do that, then the president has the power to not be held up. This is an old rule. And actually do recess appointments. Say, I don't need to wait for the Senate. And for the rest of this Senate's term, which goes until January 2027, those appointees would be functionally in their posts, not being dropped, not being replaced by judges in New Jersey. They would be all set. And then after that, if say that Republicans lose in November, they could go back and retroactively confirm anyone and actually make sure that they stay in their position, even if Democrats take control of the Senate and refuse any more recesses. Threaten that. The Senate doesn't like to do that. They like their advise and consent. They like to go through the paperwork. They like to be able to ask the questions. They want to have the hearings. They want to have a say. And that's important for the Senate to try to maintain that role, so long as they're actually doing it, not just logjamming everything up. So Republicans are eager to get back to their states. Democrats are doing everything they can to try and define what the big, beautiful bill is, to try and define what Republicans have been doing with their time in Washington. You and I know, and we've talked about it in the show, they've passed some of the most conservative and helpful legislation that's ever really been passed in Washington, D.C. They've defunded PBS and NPR. They've defunded, at least for a year, Planned Parenthood. They've vetted USAID. They've done the interior enforcement. But they need to be at home meeting with constituents and talking about that. It's kind of we like to make fun of them for going on recess, but it's not like a kid's recess. They're going home to talk to their constituents. They're not just having
Allegedly.
a barbecue.
Jill thinks they're having snacks.
They need to be selling this stuff. But
Well-
Democrats also want to get home. And they also have members in their late 80s and early 90s, like the Republicans do, who are tired and they don't want to deal with this. So what Senator Thune needs to do is threaten the nuclear option if this doesn't work. And then, as opposed to naming 5 or 6 people he's going to push through for each nomination cycle, name 50 and have them do 30 hours of debate on each. And they will start tough. You'll get them out there giving long stem winders of speeches, but they will stop. They will tire out. They are human. Whenever these things happen, with the vote-a-rama or whatever, Democrats and Republicans alike kind of have fun at first. They're like, oh, it's a sleepover. This is exciting. We're legislating. But after a whole night without sleep, or 2 nights without sleep, that fun really fades quickly. It's no longer fun. Now you're just with your friends on the long drive to the beach, wherever you were planning to go, and everyone's miserable and sweaty. Make them break, and then they'll be able to do what they've always traditionally done, at least decades ago, which is grant unanimous consent to votes being taken. Let the vote be taken. Republicans have the 51 votes that they need on almost every one of these nominees, if not all of them. So if they allow the vote to be taken, Republicans can stack it down, but they essentially need to beat them with attrition. They need to exhaust them, and they need to threaten if you don't stand aside and let this administration have the people it wants to hire, then we're going to go into recess and let the administration do it themselves.
I don't know, Chris. I was always the one who ended up having to drive the whole way on those trips while everyone else fell asleep. But
Yes.
so what are the chances that they actually do this? I mean, you're saying this is what you should do. This is what they need to do. Do they have them in it, the Senate Republicans, to do it and bring this home? Because it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the people, Brian Birch, right, ambassador to the Holy See, to the Vatican. There's all these positions that have been sitting around where these bitter Democrats are holding it up. What are the chances of this happening?
It's not a single U.S. attorney has been confirmed so far.
I know, it's insane.
It's a serious problem for all these prosecutions we're excited for
Insane.
talking about. The key to that is going to be President Trump. It is not in the Senate's natural inclinations to give up its power. That's why for every presidency since George W. Bush, they've essentially been in session even when they're theoretically in recesses, because they don't like that power. They'd have to go against their natural inclinations. But President Trump has that ability to make those deals, to get that over the finish line and to convince them. He's already pressured them to cancel recess. I think they're going to start cutting back on it, and they will start threatening it. But like I said, they've got a couple different competing electoral interests here where they want their members back talking to constituents. They want their members back trying to make this case. They want them on the campaign trail. So I think it's all going to come down to what the White House ends up wanting. And I tell you what, I usually am able to get the White House on the phone for a lot of my ideas and bounce different things back and forth. They've been mighty quiet on this one. I think they're being diplomatic right now, trying to see if the Senate can figure it out without further pressure.
We will look to you for all the updates. We're still waiting to confirm Joe Kent, right? We're talking about Tulsi Gabbard right now and all the good work that she's doing. We're still waiting for Joe Kent. Come on.
Yeah, and Democrats are blocking everyone. And there's also paperwork screw-ups. We've been talking about how the district judges in New Jersey appointed a new U.S. attorney before Friday's deadline and tried to replace the active one that they had in there, Elena Ababa. That is partially on the administration. I mean, they didn't get their paperwork in time to Chuck Grassley's Judiciary Committee. So that one's like not even Democratic intransigence. But it's a lot of work. It's exhausting. I know a couple of people who are Sherpas. It's constant paperwork, constant assignments, constant busy work, and deadlines that have to be met. It takes a lot of coordination to make this happen. So two can play at this game, but at the end, this Senate just needs to start confirming attorneys, undersecretaries, deputy secretaries, assistant secretaries, all throughout the American government that are needed for this job.
Well, let's hope if needed, let's hope they do it. And then let's hope if needed, the White House gives them a good kick in the ass.
There it is. We're going to end on that note. Bedford, thanks so much.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll have Steve Baker. More on Tulsi Gabbard and breaking J6 news right after this. Oh, let's be real. We are living in a time where telling the truth actually feels pretty risky. Right now, all the lies are dressed up as compassion. And if you speak honestly, they're going to call it hate. But the media, they love to sell that as tolerance. We know better. At Blaze TV, we're not going to play that game. We're going to tell the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's not popular, because staying silent is not an option. On this show and all across Blaze TV, we're going to go beyond the headlines. We're not just going to react. We actually dig into what's going on and who all the people are behind it. But you're not going to get that from the corporate media. They won't even tell you about all the Russiagate stuff happening right now. So they've picked a side, and it's not yours. But we're here to push back. We have all the facts and conviction. And it's not just about making content. It's actually about a mission. When you subscribe to Blaze TV, you're not just supporting conservative voices. You're standing with a movement that refuses to back down. It's only $8 a month right now when you use the promo code BNT. It's $20 off a yearly plan, and it all breaks down to just 26 cents a day to go out and support the truth. So go to blazetv.com/BNT and sign up today, because the truth matters and the people in power are working overtime to shut it down. Well, there's so much news breaking in these last few days, and some people think, oh, well, maybe all this Russia collusion hoax stuff is coming out to be a distraction from the Epstein files that we aren't actually getting. So for more, let's go ahead and bring in our investigative reporter, Steve Baker. So Steve, let's get some of this controversy out of the way, because there is a lot of questions that are out there. Well, maybe this Russia hoax stuff, maybe the dates and the timing of the declassification is actually significant. Is that true?
Well, it has been rumored, and it has even been asserted by even some on the right. Some conservative pundits have said that this was nothing more than an attempt to once again distract from the PR bungle, the massive PR bungle that the Epstein story was that came out on Axios.
And by the way, I mean, the left is really pushing this narrative. I mean, the left publications, the legacy publications, they're all saying this is just a distraction. Right. Tulsi's trying to distract from the Epstein files.
And nothing could be further from the truth, because, as you know, we talk to people inside the intelligence community that includes ODNI, it's the Office of the Director of the National Intelligence. And in our discussions with them, they have laid out to me and to Blaze News directly the process that this went through. And it was very clear that once they were assigned the duties of getting to the bottom of this and declassifying these documents and revealing it to America, that there was the same type of process almost that we go through when we have to get a new article approved legally.
I love that process.
I hate that process, but it's a long process. It takes time. It takes delays, and this document was prepared over a month ago, but it had to go through the process before they could present it to the public. So the timing, that's the thing that has to be understood. They had ODNI. And specifically, the Directors Initiative Group, or the DIG as they call it, of ODNI was the specially mandated group from Tulsi, from the president, to this group to get this information out. They had this document finished and prepared over a month ago, and once it cleared all the legal hurdles, they released it. Had nothing to do with timing whatsoever.
Steve, what's ironic about this is, am I wrong, or if they were really thinking about the sort of political situation, if anything, they would have delayed it right? I mean, in
Right.
other words, like this was not. If anything, they wouldn't want to distract. They wouldn't even want that claim.
And think about it. What's the one day of the week that you want to release something that you'd want ignored? That's Friday.
Right.
And they released it on Friday. And in fact, kind of in a background sort of way with an individual at the ODNI said, honestly, I wish, Tulsi would play the game a little bit better.
Yeah, Friday news dumps
Right.
aren't really that popular.
Like,
That's what you're trying to hide.
Maybe hold that till Monday
Yeah.
to get a bigger splash out of it.
But this person meant that, right? Just because she don't care about politics. She just like does it. She's just doing her. That's why I love her.
And you can
That-
tell
just doing her
that right
job.
now.
That was the point.
She's not playing the game.
That was the point being made in telling me that is that it's not an issue of politics. It's an issue of getting to the bottom of the truth of these particular mandates that the DIG at ODNI has to work on. And there's quite a few other ones coming up behind this.
Exactly. And Tulsi's talked about some of these in press conferences before, but there will be a lot more documents. And if this is any indication as to what we are going to be getting, get ready.
Right.
Yeah,
And,
so-
and there is a lot more
Do
coming.
we know anything about what else they're working on that she's been talking about?
Yeah, in terms of major topics, they are going to be working on the July 13th assassination attempt in Butler. They're going to be putting that under the microscope. There's going to be an investigation into January 6th, particularly as it relates to the intelligence failures and then the weaponization after January 6th that was utilizing, obviously, the intelligence to indict grandmothers and people that were, as I like to refer to them, as the accidental tourists that day. So there's a lot more, and then there's a couple other major topics that the DIG will be digging into.
All right, you mentioned J6. This is your specialty. You know all about it. And there is some actual breaking news for J6 once again, which we are happy because more people need to be covering it, and they will again soon with what you have.
Yeah, this is really big news today, and the big news is that there is now finally going to be a new select subcommittee to investigate into the remaining questions regarding January 6th. Now, this was a long time coming, and I can tell you from insider perspective, we know what took place. On the day after the inauguration, January 21st, the President of the United States, newly inaugurated, reelected,
Pardoning Steve Baker.
after the day after my case was dismissed with prejudice. I did not get a pardon, but it was dismissed with prejudice. And the day after, the president told Speaker Mike Johnson that he wanted a new committee to investigate the, as he likes to refer to it, the old unselect committee. That was Nancy Pelosi's investigative January 6th committee. He wanted a new committee. He wanted Barry Loudermilk to be the chairman. He wanted him to have full subpoena powers and get it started. Speaker Johnson said, "Yes, sir," on it. That was 6 months ago. They weren't too on it. There was a lot of obstructionism that took place between then and now. And it finally reached a point to where, God bless him, Congressman Loudermilk, he went to full, bulldog mode. And once he realized that he was not going to get what he needed from the Speaker, from Jim Jordan at House Judiciary, the committee chairman there, he no longer had to jump over Brian Stile, by the way, Representative Stile. Stile is the chairman of the House Administration Committee, which the old January 6th investigation subcommittee was working under that committee and was receiving just unbelievable obstructionism from Stile at the time. Unfortunately, that relationship is now over with. Stile did not renew that committee back when the new Congress formed.
So let me sum up here. So in the past, like all the work that our audience knows that you've done, when you were working with Congress sometimes, this was the administration committee, House Administration Committee, underneath them, underneath Stiles.
Right.
You had this committee that actually, they're the ones who had the video that gave Steve and our team access to video and others throughout the media. And they were trying to find out the truth about what was going on. But what you're saying is they were obstructed. There was all kinds of stuff, that some of which we couldn't even relay to our audience, where there was just obstruction within, the House to Steve's work and other journalists' work that this committee was like housing the documents, supposedly trying to help us get to the truth of. And then Trump comes in and says, I want this. And then there's still some shady obstruction that goes on, maybe from Stiles, the same guy. And now all of a sudden you have the good guys, the Patriots are in control, and there's going to be a new committee set up which should take care of all the problems in the past. Is that?
Yeah, sometimes the obstructionism was no more complicated than just not providing a room for a hearing. Thinking that they had space to do a hearing one day, and then the next day they find out they don't, or the funding wasn't there, or the staffing wasn't there, or the staffing was taken away. And then ultimately, once the new Congress was formed, January 3rd of this year, Stile just suspended the subcommittee altogether and said, I'm not reforming it, fired the staff. They had to actually go to the speaker and get permission to pay the guys out for 30 days so that, they weren't penniless.
So just the consequences of this were that even after Trump took over, and he cared about this stuff, he wanted this stuff to be taken care of. What you're saying is, how would you get access to the video during that time, for instance?
Well, see, this is what happened, is once the old subcommittee, the oversight committee under House admin was suspended and it was done, then everyone lost access to the Capitol CCTV videos that we made hay out of, because we got more time. Blaze Media got more time in the Capitol CCTV viewing room looking at January 6 videos than any other news organization, any other individual journalist. We took whole teams down there sometimes. And so we were very active in that. And then I will tell you, there's still more to be harvested from that. And then we lost access for months. We've got that back now.
So what do we expect for Blaze Media, yourself, and others that are going to be covering this now that there is going to be another new select J6 committee?
Well, we have great anticipation, but we also have trepidation as well. It is still a subcommittee under Judiciary, which means it's under Jordan. And we can report, as we have reported before through Blaze Media, that Jordan back in January of 23, when they first won the majority at that time, and he formed the weaponization subcommittee under Judiciary, he said weaponization was not going to investigate January 6. Jordan has a problem with January 6, and he doesn't like it, but the president intervened himself this time. And we have that story in our story today that is on the Blaze.
Yeah, well, this is really important work. And the exciting thing, I think, for everyone out there is that potentially we are actually going to get to the bottom of a lot of the January 6th, the greatest questions about January 6th. We're not done with it. You're not done with it. And, thanks to Steve's good work here, that we have real hope, right, that in the future, we really are going to tell you the whole truth about January 6th.
I believe that we're going to have the opportunity to finally put into place some of those missing pieces of the puzzle. And that is because of not only the fact that the press, myself and others, are going to have access to that committee's assistance again, but also with the work that Tulsi is doing over at ODNI and with her group, the DIG. We're going to have a lot of help from both of those. And I can report to you, I don't think it's a secret, that those two entities are now going to be working together.
This is what we voted for. Absolutely. There's no black pilling today. Look at what we're doing. We're talking about Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, and the truth is coming out on the Russia collusion hoax. We're getting more J6 stuff that's actually going to be coming out of Congress because President Trump said so. There is no black pilling today. Steve Baker, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Jill. Matt.
We look forward to everything that is about to come out of all of the J6 documents that Steve and others will be getting. Don't go away. We'll be back to wrap it up right after this.
Where's Tulsi? She's like hotter than everybody. She's the hottest one in the room right now because she found out with certainty. I think we knew it before, in all fairness, Tulsi. But now you have certainty. She has all the documents. She has everything that you need. And she found out that Barack Hussein Obama led a group of people and they cheated in the elections.
They cheated in the elections. She has everything. I love it. She's the hottest person in the room. Tulsi Gabbard is introducing the deep state to real accountability. This is what it looks like. So I asked you on X today, mirror, mirror on the wall, which one of these is the worst one of all? DNI Tulsi Gabbard is exposing the truth on the Russia collusion hoax. So which one do you choose? Let's get straight to your answers. Gen X starts it off with rice, the sneaky one. So we look there. Susan Rice has her hands in a lot of cookie jars, MP. We see her name pop up over and over and over again.
Okay, so this guy I agree with more than anyone because exactly the sneaky one. Susan Rice was behind so much evil during the Obama years and after. And I mean, I've always said, I said in the last show, I mean, it's the usual suspects. I think Susan Rice is protected from on high by the Prince of Darkness himself because she's behind everything. And of course, her extensive knowledge of media is why she was put on the board of Netflix to give the Clintons tens of millions of dollars after she left the White House. These are not nice people. These are not good people.
Obviously, I think that she probably knows a little bit more about media than Hunter Biden knows about painting, but either way. Let's go ahead and get to Heretic Dave, who says the obvious answer is all of them. But if I was to use the I was following orders, well, if so, then we have to move up the food chain to the buck stops here for the actual criminality. This is not me saying that they are innocent of crimes and shouldn't be punished, just saying. Now, all of them, that's fine. We don't even have to just choose one, everybody. Like that was the question today, but I understand the tone that people want to see justice, and all of them, we see it in the document dumps. They all have something.
And they all reported to Barack Hussein Obama, right? And so one of the things that comes out here is something that can't really be said enough. Obama has this reputation, even on the right, of being this, well, he was a great orator and, he's just too arrogant. Obama had a vicious side to him, and he weaponized the government against his opponents. When it came to the IRS and a host of other issues, he spied on journalists, wanted to put them in jail, and then ultimately is behind, going after Trump and ruining his entire presidency. So, Barack Obama is a vicious man and opponent, and he more so because he hides behind this image of him as some kind of, benevolent intellectual.
Well, Tom sees you, Heretic Dave, and he raises you. Tom replies that I'll take all of the above, plus Obama and Biden for 1,000, Jill. So this is it. Listen, we want Barack Hussein Obama in there. Why don't you just throw Joe Biden in there too? And then we could just have a fun party with everyone involved at the same time.
It sounds great to me. I want to see the punishment happen, though. And I know all you do too. So we need to see more of these dumps. We need to see more focus. I'm putting this narrative story together because it's the true story. It's just piecing together the truth of what happened in the last decade.
I hope that people that are just normies are going to pay attention to this story. That is one of the concerns that I do have, because legacy media, they don't want to cover this story. They don't want to tell you the truth of what's actually happening. But this is, if it's not fixed, I don't even know if we have a country anymore, but this is going to be one of the biggest stories. And I hope that this can have the mass appeal that a story of this size needs. As Chris said at the beginning, I think everybody in the audience agrees. Watergate doesn't hold a candle to this story. And we saw massive repercussions coming out of that when a president left office because of that.
Right. Well, I mean, the problem is that Watergate,
It was a different time.
No, the winners of the Watergate story were the intelligence agencies themselves, who probably had a hand on it and did not want to be reformed by the Nixon administration. So they win that game. This time around, though, something different is happening, and I think there is reason to be hopeful. And I've been thinking about how to phrase this because, again, I don't think there's justice unless prosecutions happen. I don't think there's justice unless they really go and try to take these people to task and get creative with how to prosecute such wrongdoing. It's so wrong, it's almost hard to find, the right legal justification for this kind of corruption, but there's plenty of ways to prosecute these people. But I've been thinking about how to say this. here's the thing. Why do you want prosecution, though? Why do you want perp walks, right? Because you want justice. You want these people to be punished for wrongdoing. And, what I've been thinking is, in a healthy society, if we can reframe the media control, the narrative control that you're talking about, to teach the normie, to show everyone the truth, or at least a majority, a 55 to 60% majority of the country is reframed by media that actually is looking for the truth, then it doesn't even matter whether or not they are prosecuted, because they will be broken and destroyed and punished with the media itself. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it does matter. The rule of law needs to be reestablished. Try to prosecute them, right? But what I'm saying is, if you get the truth out there to the majority of the population, you've ruined these people's careers. You've ruined the only thing that matters to them, which is their reputation and the fame that they think they have and deserve from now to eternity. You destroy their reputation, you destroy them. You make it so they are shamed in public, and you take away what matters and you punish them. And to me, like, that's okay too, right? The reason we're not there yet is because the media is so fractured and terrible. But as the old media crumbles, I feel like we have a chance to actually establish the narrative truth of the last 10 years that will be taught in schools from generations from now. But it's still gonna take some work. Does this make sense?
Yes, it feels like with the news that we've been covering over the last few weeks, it feels like quite the roller coaster ride that we've been on, right? The highs and the lows of, is this going to happen? Are we going to get Epstein documents? Are we going to get this? Well, now I think today's show is so important because this is about truth and accountability, like you're talking about. This is the time to do this with Tulsi Gabbard and that group, the Directors Initiative group, coming through and just saying, here are the documents. Look at them for yourselves. And you know what? If you don't want to talk about it, that's on you. But Barack Obama did all these things. Hillary Clinton is on tranquilizers. Yeah. I mean, who knew that this day we would get Hillary Clinton on tranquilizers going in? And we now know that Putin, he didn't want Trump to win. He wanted Hillary Clinton to win, and he wanted to save all of that info, all of that ammo for when Hillary Clinton was actually president. This is an entire shift in what we were told for years.
Yeah, I mean, Hillary on tranquilizers, like, not that I'm surprised, like, not color me surprised. No, I mean, this obviously, it just affirms the truth, but it shows that time and time again, everything that everyone was instinctually seeing and saying is now being proven true irrefutably by the documents, and that's really important. The most important thing, though, is that Epstein, this is not a distraction from Epstein. I don't know what Pam Bondi was doing with Epstein, but it wasn't part of a longer plan. Tulsi Gabbard is not just talking. She's just going about her job, and that's why everyone's paying attention now, because they're slowly and thoughtfully rolling out the truth, and I don't think they're going to stop.
No, but I hope that Hillary Clinton stopped throwing all of the lamps, right? Wasn't that the thing?
Well, I was kind of interested in that she had these uncontrollable fits of cheerfulness.
Yes,
as well.
Cheerfulness. It's actually in the documents. I don't think that throwing lamps was cheerful, but words matter. Thanks for watching tonight, everybody. I'm sure we will have a ton more information the way this news cycle is going tomorrow.
I can't control my cheerfulness.